Let me tell you, I've recently come to know someone new, someone superior, and thus I won't be attending our wedding scheduled for next month. I wish you all the best." This was the complete message from Ethan, arriving at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, precisely 32 days before we were to wed. My eyes remained fixed on my phone screen, leaving my coffee to cool beside my laptop, as everything I knew seemed to shift beneath me. 3 years shared, 8 months engaged, and countless "I love yous" reduced to a mere 4 sentences. I am Alysa Reynolds, a 30-year-old interior designer residing in Boston, and until that day, I believed I was living an idyllic life, a thriving career, a stunning apartment downtown, and engaged to a man I thought was my true partner. Ethan and I had first crossed paths at a charity gala, where his investment firm acted as a major donor. His charm, intellect, and what seemed to be sincere kindness won me over. In retrospect, the warning signs were clear: extravagant gifts beyond his means, mysterious late-night meetings accompanied by the unfamiliar scent on his collar, his defensiveness when quizzed about unusual transactions on our joint account. Love indeed can blind you to red flags waving blatantly. "Did you see this?" I texted my best friend Rachel, forwarding Ethan's email. Her reply was swift: "I'm coming over. Don't do anything rash." When Rachel arrived, she found me seated at the kitchen island, surrounded by wedding invitation samples that had been delivered that morning. The irony wasn't lost on me. Elegant gold foil on cream paper, announcing, "Join us in celebrating our love," while my phone displayed what felt like an obituary for our relationship. What kind of coward ends things via email? Rachel's voice trembled with indignation. "After all you've done for him," she continued, and she was absolutely right. I had stood by Ethan through his temporary financial setbacks, helped him network for larger clients, and even deferred purchasing our own home so he could invest further in his business ventures. Yet, unbeknownst to Ethan, I wasn't as gullible as he presumed. Over the past 3 months, I had been subtly compiling evidence of his dubious actions. An engagement ring he claimed was a family heirloom I discovered to have been recently purchased at a high-end secondhand store. I sold it 2 weeks prior, after catching inexplicable lipstick marks on a shirt. The funds from the ring were safely stored in a separate account, awaiting a purpose, which now seemed clear. As the initial shock faded, it was replaced with something sharper, more resolute. If Ethan thought an email could easily extricate him from our shared life, he was on the verge of receiving a significant lesson about misjudging the wrong woman. The weeks leading up to Ethan's message were littered with signs I could no longer disregard: his habit of taking calls in the hallway, his voice dropping to a hushed tone, his implausible stories about business dinners at venues that were closed, conferences absent from his firm's calendar. Each suspicious moment felt like a small pebble in my shoe, bothersome yet not painful enough to halt my stride. I had met Ethan's parents on several occasions, both brimming with pride for their only son. His mother, Susan, took me wedding dress shopping, tearing up when I tried on a lace gown costing more than my first car. His father, James, had pulled me aside at our engagement party to express his joy that Ethan had finally found the one. Now, I questioned whether they were aware of their son's double life, or if they were equally deceived as I had been. Looking back, the shifts began around March, when Ethan claimed to be working late on a major merger at his firm. However, during a chance encounter with his colleague Mike at the grocery store, Mike explained, "A merger? We haven't had significant deals since January." When I confronted Ethan about this, he accused me of spying, twisting the narrative to paint me as the untrustworthy one. That night, while he slept soundly beside me, I laid awake and seized the opportunity to access his laptop, something previously unimaginable. His password was still my birthday, which instead of touching, now seemed careless. The emails I uncovered made my stomach churn. Messages to real estate agents about properties in Chicago, job searches in the Midwest, and most damningly, a slew of communications with someone named Claire. "I can't bear the guilt any longer," one email read. "A deserves much more than this, but my feelings for you are overwhelming." Sent at 3 a.m. On a night Ethan claimed to be working late at the office. It was at this point I decided to sell the ring. Having previously believed Ethan's tale of his grandmother cherishing it over a half-century of marriage. Truth be told, the ring had been purchased a mere 2 years ago from a prestigious consignment shop. The $15,000 I acquired from it felt like insurance, safeguarding against the storm that was now upon me. Earth to Alysa. Rachel's voice jolted me back to reality, her hand waving before my face. What do you want to do about the vendors and the venue deposit? I exhaled deeply, my thoughts remarkably clear. The first step was to make. I made a phone call and accessed the contact information of Thomas Hayes, a private investigator who was recommended by a client. Together, we were determined to uncover the identity of this someone better. Meeting Thomas Hayes felt unreal. His office was far from the dim, smoky spaces portrayed in films. It was modern, brightly lit, and professional. He listened intently while I presented what I knew, jotting down notes on a sleek tablet. So, this joint account, he said, gesturing to the bank statements I had brought. These charges here: $4,800 at Peninsula Hotel, $3,200 at Tiffany's. None of these were incurred by you? Not a single one, I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. And all occurred on days he claimed to be at work conferences or client meetings. Thomas nodded, neutral, yet focused. You mentioned he's planning something in Chicago? That's what his email implied, but I only caught glimpses before my courage failed while snooping. I reached for my checkbook. I have $155,000 from selling the ring. Is that sufficient? More than enough, Thomas reassured. I'll begin with his financial records and recent travel patterns. Give me a week. That week stretched on, feeling interminable. I immersed myself in work, thankful that interior design required enough concentration to keep me preoccupied. My clients never suspected that their usually upbeat designer was tracking her fiancé's infidelity between selecting paint swatches and ordering custom furniture. Then, Thomas called. Can you meet today? His office felt unexpectedly smaller as he spread out photographs across his desk. Ethan entering upscale restaurants with a tall brunette, the same woman climbing into his car. Receipts for flights to Chicago, hotel stays, jewelry. Her name is Claire Winters, Thomas explained. She's a pharmaceutical sales rep he met at a networking event last year. They've been seeing each other since March. March, a month when everything started changing. There's more, Thomas continued, revealing financial records. Mr. Bennett has been living beyond his means. Credit card debt, personal loans, even gambling debts. It appears he's been using your joint account to manage appearances for both relationships. My hands trembled as I examined the evidence. Ethan had squandered thousands wooing Claire while using my money to cover his tracks. The Chicago plans weren't solely about love. He was fleeing from debt collectors, intending to start anew with Claire in a different city. What are my options? I inquired. Thomas reclined in his chair. That depends on your goals. We have enough here to create significant issues for his firm. They have strict policies on financial disclosures. Alternatively, we could ensure Claire sees these credit reports and collection notices. Or we might consider a more strategic approach, confronting him with everything at once, his lies, his debts, his carefully constructed house of cards. But it requires careful handling. I pondered over Ethan's dismissive email, his casual cruelty in ending our relationship. A plan began forming in my mind. Tell me more about being strategic, I said. The first phase of my plan began with a simple text to Ethan. I accept your decision. I just need you to come get your things. His reply was almost insultingly prompt. I'll send movers next week. No, I responded. There are personal documents and family photos. You need to come yourself. Friday at 6. Awaiting Friday. I stayed occupied. Thomas discovered Claire's company had strict policies regarding client relationships, coincidentally affecting her recent major contract signing with her firm. Additionally, I learned Ethan's boss, Richard, was a stickler for ethical conduct, especially after a recent financial scandal at their company. I invited Rachel to assist me in setting the stage. We arranged Ethan's belongings neatly, including printouts of his secret emails with Claire, bank statements revealing his lavish double life, and photographs from Thomas's surveillance, all innocently labeled in boxes. At 5:55 p.m. on Friday, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find not just Ethan, but Claire beside him. My heart tightened, yet I maintained a neutral expression. She was beautiful, I admitted, tall, elegant, but visibly uneasy. "So, I thought honesty would be best," Ethan began, his usual confidence wavering at my lack of reaction. "Claire wanted to." "Perfect," I interrupted. "You're both here, come in." They followed me into the living room where Richard, Ethan's boss, was already seated on my couch. The color drained from Ethan's face. "Richard, what are you?" "I invited him," I stated calmly. "Since we're being honest about everything, those boxes are yours. Feel free to look through them." Claire reached the first box before Ethan, extracting the credit reports and collection notices. Her composed demeanor shattered as she read. "What is this?" she demanded, turning to Ethan. "You said you were financially secure. You said—" "There's more," I interrupted, gesturing to the rest of the documents. Richard rose to his feet, his expression stormy, and declared, "The other boxes contain records of how he funneled my funds for your dates, evidence of his breach of his firm's financial disclosure policies. Oh, and Claire, your company might want to know about your client relationship. Then, be at my office at 8 a.m. Monday." As he began to leave, Ethan stammered, "This isn't how it appears." But Richard was already departing. Claire grabbed her designer handbag, teary-eyed. "You told me you were almost single, that she was merely a financial convenience." She sobbed and exited swiftly. Ethan was left alone among the artifacts of his deceit. "Alysa, I can explain it all," he pleaded. "No explanation necessary. Your email was quite explicit. Remember telling me you found someone better, though now she may no longer share that view." Ethan nervously paced around, running his fingers through his perfectly coiffed hair. "You had no right to delve into my private matters," he accused, his composed demeanor unraveling. "Just as you had no right draining our joint account on gifts for Claire," I replied evenly, "or using my credit card points for your vacations." He rifled through a box of files. "This could destroy me," he insisted, his voice escalating. "Richard's going to fire me. Claire's firm will blacklist me. Why are you so spiteful?" "Spiteful?" I laughed humorlessly. "You ended our 3-year relationship via email, planned to escape to Chicago loaded with wedding debt in tow, and I'm the spiteful one?" His expression shifted as he attempted that grin which once weakened my resolve. "I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. I'll end things with Claire. We'll figure something out with Richard. Just help me fix this mess." I retorted, "Like how you helped plan our wedding while looking for apartments with another woman, flashing screenshots of his real estate searches. Or chose wedding invites after booking a romantic getaway with Claire." "That's not the same," he muttered. "I was lost, I messed up." "Messed up is forgetting an anniversary or a careless argument," I said firmly. "You crafted an entire double life, deceiving everyone, me, Claire, your firm, even your parents." At the mention of his parents, he flinched. "They know," I said. "I sent them everything yesterday. Your mother called, devastated. Not just about Claire, but your gambling debts. All of it." Ethan collapsed onto the couch, his suit now crumpled. And for the first time, I saw him clearly, not as the confident partner I loved, but as someone living a falsehood. "What do you want? Money? An apology? Name it." I moved toward the door, opening it. "I want you to leave. Take your boxes, you'll need them for meetings with HR, Claire's legal team, debt collectors, they'll all want to talk." "Alysa, please," he pleaded. "Goodbye, Ethan. I hope she was worth it." After he left, things devolved quickly. Within a week, Richard fired him using the evidence I supplied as his leverage. Claire's company launched an ethics probe leading to her resignation. The Chicago realtors weren't pleased by revelations of Ethan's finances. I immersed myself in work, thankful for supportive clients and continuous projects. Yet, in the solitude of night, doubt crept in. Was I too harsh, stooping to his level of revenge? but those memories of his cold email, the relentless deceit, the money blown on Claire surfaced. A month later, I met Thomas for coffee to wrap up his investigation. "I figured you'd want to know," he said, sliding a folder across our table. Ethan moved back with his parents in New Hampshire. His dad's trying to sort out the debt mess, but it's severe. The gambling wasn't casual, a dire situation. I nodded, feeling mixed emotions as he continued. "Claire found a job in California. Seems she wants nothing to do with him." Thomas paused. "You know, many people seek revenge only to harm themselves in the end. But you just revealed the truth. His downfall is his own doing." Sometimes, truth is the best revenge, I reflected, considering Ethan's seamless lies. "I just ensured everyone saw it." Thomas smiled. "Your retainer still has funds. Want me to keep watch on?" Reflecting on it, I shook my head, deciding he should figure out his own life. As I headed home, a text from Rachel buzzed on my phone, suggesting lunch the next day at a new spot on Newberry Street, her treat. I smiled, thinking of how she had stood by me through everything. That's when I realized the weight and tension in my shoulders had vanished. Ethan's betrayal had certainly broken my heart, but not me. It had revealed my inner strength. The truth was my weapon, and I used it flawlessly. Ethan had thought he could just send an email and escape without repercussions, but instead, his carefully planned facade crumbled, leaving him to face the consequences of all his lies. The ensuing months brought unexpected changes. Without Ethan constantly draining my finances, my savings grew rapidly. I began taking on more high-end design projects, with clients who appreciated my detail-oriented approach and trusted my decisions. My portfolio expanded, along with my confidence. One morning, as I was getting coffee at my usual spot, I ran into Richard, Ethan's former boss. He had been pivotal after my revelations, though we never spoke about it directly. "Alysa," he said warmly, "how are you holding up?" I stirred my latte, contemplating the question. "Actually, I'm doing really well, better than I expected," I replied. He nodded and hesitated. "Listen, I should have told you this earlier. We had been investigating Ethan's accounts for months before everything came out. There were inconsistencies we couldn't overlook, but we had no idea about the personal issues, the gambling. You did us a favor by bringing everything to light all at once." "I just wanted the truth to come out," I responded. Everything else was simply the aftermath. "Speaking of aftershocks," Richard continued, "we're redesigning our office, all 40,000 square feet. Would you be interested in submitting a proposal? Your reputation in the design community is stellar, and after everything, let's just say, I trust your attention to detail." That project became my biggest one, a comprehensive corporate office overhaul that put my firm on the map. The irony wasn't lost on me. Ethan's downfall had led to my professional breakthrough. My parents, who had been devastated by the wedding cancellation, now proudly shared stories about their daughter, the successful businesswoman. Mom even confessed she had never fully trusted Ethan. She found him too polished, like he was trying too hard to be perfect. Rachel pushed me to start dating again, assuring me that although I was hesitant, not everyone hides a secret life. And now I knew the red flags to watch for. She was right about the red flags. I began noticing things now, like inconsistencies in stories and subtle manipulations, things I might have overlooked previously. Each observation felt like a small victory, proof I had learned rather than been broken. The last ties to Ethan unraveled slowly. His mother called once more, apologizing again for her son's actions and returning a family necklace I had left at their house. I donated all the wedding items we had collected, as there was no point in keeping mementos of a narrowly avoided disaster. The save-the-date cards, the venue deposit, the carefully chosen color swatches, all of it went away, creating space for new possibilities. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered about Claire. Was she as deceived as I had been? Did she lie awake pondering which parts of her relationship with Ethan were genuine? I hoped she, too, found her way to a better life, free from his deceitful web. The engagement ring money, which turned into an inadvertent escape fund, ended up being seed money to expand my business. I hired 2 junior designers and moved to a proper office space. Each time I signed a new client or approved a design concept, I remembered Ethan's dismissive email. He thought he was ending my story, but he merely freed me to write a better one. Nearly a year after Ethan's email, I received an unexpected message from Claire, saying she was back in Boston briefly and wanted to meet. I agreed more out of curiosity than anything, and we set a meeting at a quiet cafe away from the business district. She looked different from the day in my apartment, less polished, but somehow more genuine. She had cut her long hair into a practical bob and traded designer clothes for simple business casual. We ordered coffee and sat in awkward silence until she spoke. "I've been wanting to thank you," she said, turning her cup slowly. "Not just for exposing Ethan, but for doing it the way you did, all at once, with everyone there. It was humiliating then, but like ripping off a Band-Aid. Painful but quick." I nodded, fully understanding her sentiment. "How are you now?" "Better, much better. The job in California was a fresh start. I'm seeing someone new, an architect. He's real. No secret life, no hidden debts, just an honest man who truly cares." She paused. "I heard through mutual friends that Ethan tried contacting you." "He did," I confirmed, recalling. The frantic emails and voicemails began arriving around 6 months post-confrontation, yet I never replied. Claire didn't either, despite his relentless attempts. He sent me flowers at my San Francisco office, contacted my parents, and even reached out via LinkedIn. She shook her head, lamenting how he didn't comprehend the situation. He wasn't remorseful for his actions, only that he got caught. We spoke for nearly 2 hours, filling in gaps within each other's narratives. Her perception of Ethan was vastly different from mine. To her, he was a seemingly successful single businessman, with long hours devoted to building his investment portfolio. He even hinted at marriage, all while planning a wedding with me. As we prepared to leave, Claire remarked on the oddest part, never seeing his place during their relationship due to endless excuses ranging from renovations to a nosy roommate. It finally made sense. I laughed, recalling his claim of renovating his office for half a year. Managing lies can indeed become complex. Before we separated, Claire handed me an envelope with photos of Ethan and me from happier times. Celebrations, vacations, candid moments I was unaware of being captured. I trashed the envelope at the earliest opportunity. These memories, much like Ethan himself, no longer held sway over me. My life took a different trajectory, one defined by honesty, success, and authentic relationships. I had way more than when anticipating a future with him. That evening, over dinner, I recounted my encounter with Claire to Rachel. "You both dodged a bullet," she praised, raising her glass. "Here's to unmasking lies and emerging stronger." Our glasses met, and I reflected on my journey. "Here's to recognizing our own worth," I added, "and never settling for less." Looking back, I can scarcely identify with the woman who once received that cold email from Ethan, someone who equated love with accepting deceit and gauged self-worth through another's eyes. The transformation from that morning to where I stand now hasn't been easy, yet it's changed me in astonishing ways. My design firm flourished beyond my wildest dreams. The project for Richard's company opened doors to further corporate clients, requiring me to hire 3 more designers to keep up. A prestigious design magazine spotlighted our work recently, showcasing our philosophy of marrying elegance and authenticity. The proceeds from selling Ethan's ring were my best investment, both financially and emotionally, reinforcing my trust in instincts and decisive actions when things felt awry, a lesson that has paid dividends in business and life. Rachel jokes I owe Ethan thanks for setting me free, though I remain reserved with gratitude. My success is rooted in self-affirmation and defying his betrayal's hold over me. Instead of drowning in hurt, I channeled everything into building something substantial. Sometimes clients inquire about the faint ring indentation on my finger. Once a source of embarrassment, I now wear it as a badge, an emblem of choosing truth over comfort, strength over security, self-respect over compromise. It marks my gains. Independence, confidence, and above all, belief in myself. Last week, while awaiting a new client at the restaurant where Ethan once proposed, I noticed my reflection, confident, successful, at peace. The hostess recalled seeing Ethan recently, worn, attempting to impress a date with tales of business prospects. Some things never change. Yet,
I have.
the person once desperate to decipher his lies now leads a thriving enterprise based on transparency and trust. The ring money, initially meant to bind us, liberated me instead. Rachel suggests I pen a book about it, but sharing this story suffices, guiding others who feel ensnared or betrayed. I relay what I wish I'd heard back then. Even dire happenings can forge your best self. Love endures for me, yet understanding it mustn't demand sacrificing integrity nor ignoring instincts. Real love uplifts rather than breaks. Grounded in honesty, not artifice. Those sorrowful emotions from Ethan's email now seem like another life altogether. Opting for truth over subterfuge imparts the greatest strength that, beyond vengeance, yields the sweetest victory.